So Markvin Schenkof, or as many people called him, Mr. V, was my predecessor here at Manhasset High School. He, for 20 years, from 1999 to 2019, directed choirs from the middle school to the high school. He vocal directed the play, the musical, and he was a driving force in the vocal program here. He built the choirs to what they are now. When he started, he eventually formed the Kinsmen, and then that program grew so much that he created a men's choir, which is now a curricular class because there was so much interest in wanting to learn tenor bass repertoire. He had a huge impact on the community. It wasn't just a matter of performing concerts here at the high school for him. The students would go out, they'd perform at community events for Plandome Women's Club. They did collaborations with the Long Island Community Band. I know that in their time, he also took the select ensemble that performed holiday tunes at the White House back in the late 2000s. He was a mentor to many people, myself included. I had the privilege of not only succeeding him here, but learning from him as a student teacher back in 2010. And that wasn't my first interaction with him. I remember being a freshman at Hofstra University, studying music education. And at NYSMA Majors, we got to watch all the different choirs come in. It was an opportunity for us as music education students to see what choral programs and even music programs in general were like on Long Island. And I remember the first time that I saw Mr. V with all of the Manhasset choirs show up at NYSMA Majors, and there were many. And they all walked out with performances that were really stunning. And I remember saying back then, that's a place where I want to student teach. I want to learn from that guy. So a few years later, I had the opportunity to actually student teach from him. I remember in 2010, coming into Manhasset all the time and learning from him on a day-to-day basis, not just the music, but seeing his connection that he built with students. And I remember thinking that was such an amazing opportunity and relationship that he built, that I hope to have that same relationship with my own students. After I finished my student teaching, I kept in touch with Mr. V, and I would meet him at least once a year with all his other former student teachers. And I very much enjoyed grad school, my other teaching experiences, but the one thing I always said to myself was, it would be a dream to work back at Manhasset and follow Mr. V. And unfortunately, in 2019, when Mr. V announced he was diagnosed with ALS, the opportunity came about. And I remember having some open conversations with him about the possibility of coming to Manhasset. And I'm just very glad I did for many reasons. One, I've had the privilege of getting to see the community that he has gotten to interact with. But I feel like I have also been able to benefit from the foundations that he has built in the choral program here. And the relationships that I get to build with my students, I model based on what I saw him build. And I'm glad to now be here in the Manhasset community because I get to see from all the alumni all of the benefits of the relationships he got to build with all of those students. Seeing the tributes that are being posted right now on social media or people reaching out about the profound impact that Mr. V had on their lives, many of them say that they would not be the person they are, not necessarily a musician, but the person they are because of Mr. V. And he never settled for mediocrity. He always saw the greatest potential in every student and made them reach for it and would never settle for less. Whether that meant having them do a few push-ups to hit a high note or to really strive and go for an all-state solo or a solo in a concert. He wanted every student to make sure that they succeeded, And that, I think, is a lasting impression for every educator out there. So in 2019, when Mr. V was retiring, one way they wanted to showcase the legacy and the impact he made on this community was they put together a surprise concert. He had no idea about it, and they called it Mr. V's Opus. And it was a performance here in the auditorium featuring several solos of alumni from spanning all 20 years of his career here, also featuring alumni and current students performing some of the top hits that Mr. V always used to perform that people loved. You had Morton Lauritsen's O Magnum Mysterium, you had the Hallelujah Chorus, you had the arrangement by Alice Parker and Robert Shaw of the What Should We Do with a Drunken Sailor by Kinsman and Men's Choir. One of, I think, the most profound opportunities at that concert for me was being able to perform in the Parting Glass. The Parting Glass was a tradition started around 2013. Mr. V arranged the traditional tune for a men's choir. It was at the start of when men's choir became a class. And it featured all of the men's choir kinsmen and alumni that year at that concert. And for the soloists, there were 4 of us that were all his former student teachers that were asked to perform in the quartet. Myself as the bass 2, Mr. James Ludwig, who was the baritone. He's currently at Herrick's Middle School. Mr. Brian Messmer, who is the middle school chorus teacher at North Shore, sang tenor 2, and Dr. Michael Capobianco, who's the choir director at Long Beach High School, sang tenor 1. And I think it was really impressive to me to see 3 other people who, like me, were impacted by Mr. V in a different way, where we learned how to teach and we model our pedagogy and teaching philosophy because of him and what he had to say and share with us. Earlier this week, I, with the choirs, played back our concert from December, and it hit differently knowing that Mr. V had passed away, but that his legacy continued on, and that the Parting Glass continues to remain such a motivational piece and something that many singers connect to here at Manhasset. The other great event of that concert that was put on for Mr. V's retirement was a scholarship award that was created. The award is given to a student who has excelled in the program here, not just as a musician, but as a citizen and a leader in the choral program. And it's someone who will hopefully be continuing on in some kind of way with music as a way of continuing to be a tribute to Mr. V's legacy. I think knowing the years, the time, the foundation, and the program that Mr. V has built, along with all the relationships, Mr. V's legacy at the event, Mr. V's Opus, he got up at the very end, and again, the whole night was a surprise to him, and he spoke just like Mr. V would. It was off the cuff, but it was so meaningful to so many people. And he spoke about one of his favorite philosophers, Aristotle, about happiness, and how Aristotle thought of happiness as not something you achieve in the moment, but something you can only look back on and realize your happiness. And Mr. V at that very moment, at the end of the night, said, "It is now that I realize I am happy." And I think that just spoke volumes of who he was and how people respect and admired him. Mr. V will be missed. I will miss him. I know many others will. But the one thing I know for sure is that I'm fortunate to work at Manhasset when I know, looking around and seeing other people and the impact he's made, I know that Mr. V is still around.